Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football, breaking down the Bruins with Tony Siracusa from Last Word on College Football. So I encourage you to step over to Last Word on College Football. They've got a staff that's tackling college football across the board, Power 5, Group of 5, with a number of different angles and styles that you can certainly find your niche right there. And if it's Pac-12 and UCLA, then you grab Tony's columns on UCLA football. Then he goes national with it as well. So it's always a good read from Tony and a different take and perspective as the season unfolds. We're looking at UCLA football. Of course, Cincinnati's game number one. The Bearcats won it at the Rose Bowl last year, 26-17. So, Tony, I would think to a certain extent we can take more from that effort last year on the Cincinnati side based on what they've got back offensively, a quarterback and running back, than we can necessarily for UCLA. And this Cincinnati team was a 4-8 team in 2017. And Luke Fickell's second season turned out to be a breakthrough from them. I don't know if it's going to continue, but it certainly has the signs of being another Group of 5 contender this year.
Yeah, I think you hit it exactly right. You can take more from what Cincinnati did than you can from UCLA. From the UCLA standpoint, they started Wilton Speight at quarterback because Dorian Thompson-Robinson wasn't ready. But then Speight got injured, and Thompson-Robinson had to be thrown into the game whether he was ready or not. UCLA did not have the same offensive line that they do right now because Boss Tagaloa was under a 3-game suspension. And so it was kind of juggling the offensive line, mixing and matching the pieces. And of course, UCLA hadn't discovered Joshua Kelly yet. He had just a handful of carries in the first game and was not the 1,000-yard rusher we saw later on in the season. Cincinnati, on the other hand, as you pointed out, 11-2 under Luke Fickell last year. Great coaching job by Fickell. And they've got a lot of those pieces back. They're picked to finish second in the AAC this year, behind Central Florida. They've got Michael Warren, the second back, their lead running back, who rushed for 1,300 yards last year and 19 touchdowns. The guy is very quick, pivots well, change of direction, very quick foot movement. And last year in the UCLA game in the season opener at the Rose Bowl, he rushed for 142 yards and 3 touchdowns. So UCLA, very familiar with him already. There's not as much depth right now at running back for Cincinnati. Tavion Thomas is going to miss this game. He missed a lot of camp, and Fickell decided he's not ready for this game. He was a 500-yard rusher last year in 9 games for the Bearcats, but he's missed most of camp, and so he's just not ready. And then, as you point out, they've got the quarterback back, and he is a quarterback who I think is going to be, you're going to have to reckon with him in the AAC. He had a good year last year as a freshman. He didn't start the UCLA game. He came in partway through the game and wound up throwing for 100 yards and 13 of 24 passing against UCLA. Had a good game. Not a great game, but a good game. And he had Warren behind him, so it didn't really matter. But over the course of the season, he wound up throwing for 2,400 yards and 20 touchdowns. And the kid had a 62% completion rate. So Desmond Ridder is the young man we're talking about. Very good quarterback, good arm. Does a good job of reading the under defense. In other words, isn't always looking to throw deep, but finding the receiver under the defensive backs and putting the ball in the hands of the playmakers. And so very good quarterback. There is a lot of Cincinnati's team that is returning. It's going to be a little bit more wide receiver by committee or receiver by committee because they lost Khalil Tate to the NFL last year. He was their leading receiver for the last 3 years, but still a lot of young talent at the receiver position. So offensively, there's a lot coming back for Cincinnati. And, UCLA will get a taste of a lot of what they saw last year at the Rose Bowl, this time obviously in Cincinnati. Defensively, Cincinnati lost 3 of their 4 defensive linemen to the NFL. So the defensive line is very untested going into this game, but they are very skilled, very experienced in the defensive secondary, a little less so at the linebacker position. But the test for UCLA offensively is going to be to see what kind of penetration they can get going forward with that experienced offensive line against a very inexperienced Cincinnati defensive line. A lot of the game is going to rest right there. I think you're going to see UCLA really try and run the ball extensively with Joshua Kelly, with Martell Irby, with Kashmir Allen, guys like that, and really try and see what they can get up front before they open it up too much.
Yeah, the game plan in terms of run-pass ratio has to be pretty similar for both teams. For UCLA, as you mentioned, it has much maybe to do with trying to enforce their will against a defensive front that has yet to be tested with live bullets versus the Cincinnati game plan just being, this is what we do. We would love to throw it 25, run it 50. You mentioned Ritter only throwing 24 passes and 100 yards. Of course, he was just getting his feet wet at that point and really developed into a better passer, but still, as you mentioned, 20 touchdowns, 5 picks. So he protected the ball, but they're very safe with him. They like him as a runner. They want to run the ball with Warren, 1,300 yards last year. So they're a pound-ahead football team that wants to control the ball, control the clock. And then UCLA's got Joshua Kelly, so it could be one of those games. And then hopefully Kelly, for UCLA's sake, can open up the passing game for DTR downfield with some play action.
Right. No, I think that's right. And again, if you're Cincinnati, when you've got Warren behind Ritter, there's your safety net right there. You don't have to get too crazy with the offense. Warren is an outstanding runner. The top running back in the AAC, in my estimation, but frankly, one of the top 15 running backs, probably maybe to some people, one of the top 10 running backs in the country. You don't need to go too crazy. You're gonna let him do what he can. He's got speed. He opens up the offense a lot on his own with his ability to get to the outside with his footwork. So there's already a bit of opening up the offense and going wide with the offense as it is if you're Cincinnati.
It's a Thursday night in Cincinnati to open the season for the UCLA Bruins. Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football, with the help of Tony Siracusa from Last Word on College Football, getting the straight scoop on UCLA football, hoping to rack up at least double the wins from the 3 in 2018, of course, to get to postseason play, which seems very reasonable and pretty much is your projection, right, Tony?
Yeah, I think so. Look, UCLA's got a very tough out-of-conference schedule. They open up on the road against Cincinnati. They've got San Diego State at home, which, this is not the little state school down the road that it used to be. San Diego State is a real program. And then, of course, you got Oklahoma coming into the Rose Bowl, which, wow. Look, UCLA could wind up the out-of-conference schedule 2-1 or 1-2, and I don't think it matters either way, frankly. I mean, of course, it matters if you're a UCLA fan, you want to win as much as you can. But what I would suggest to UCLA fans is don't overreact either way. If you're 2-1, don't start going off the ledge about how great you are. And if you're 1-2, back away from the ledge for other reasons also. This is a 6-7 win team this year with the experience they have, with the youth that they have mixed in. This is a 6-7 win team this year, which is a bowl game. And, heck of a lot better than they were last year. It's a dramatic improvement over last year. You get a couple of good bounces in the right place, who knows? But just from a straight look of what we've seen at camp and what we know is coming back and the talent that's there, looking at the schedule, it's a 6-7 win team this year.
So do I stretch that to narrative from 2-1, 1-2 being the possibilities to San Diego State being as good as you're talking about? They beat Arizona State and Stanford the last 2 years. Cincinnati's a favorite at home. They won by 9 last year. And then Oklahoma's probably, a 10 or 15% chance of winning that game even at home?
If
so I don't want to be the pessimist, but there's a possibility the ledge could come into play if it's 0-3 to start.
Wow, yeah, 0-3 would be tough to swallow. I think San Diego State is beatable at home. They're good, but they're beatable. And I'm looking at the Cincinnati game as a bit of a toss-up. They're a 2.5-point favorite right now as we sit here recording this, which 2.5-point favorite is basically what you get for the home field advantage, which puts the game as a toss-up. And so, it's a winnable game. It's always tough to open on the road. Place you've never played before, a stadium you've never been in before. That's always tough. But, I think the Cincinnati game is a bit of a toss-up, maybe a slight edge to Cincinnati, narrows to margins. I think San Diego State is beatable. And then, got Oklahoma. That's, you keep it close. keep
Let
everything.
2019 begin. Cincinnati and a UCLA on opening night. Tony Siracusa joining us from Last Word on College Football. Tony, it's always a good time. We always appreciate the breakdown. Enjoy the game, and hopefully it will not spoil your weekend. You'll be able to enjoy a 1-0 start on into the weekend, and then you can just kick back and watch the other teams play with a W in the back pocket.
Yeah, you know how we are. Last Word. We'll be pumping and grinding all weekend with all kinds of stories and work coming out. So it will be. Hey, it's fun. This is what we do this for. We always get excited when the first full weekend gets here.
All right, absolutely, Tony. We will see you soon.
All right, thanks, Mark. Appreciate it.